Hey there, this is Tom with the Diogenes Lamp Podcast. I appreciate you listening in, and most importantly, I hope you enjoy what you hear. Before we start with today's episode, I'm going to ask you for a small favor. Believe it or not, history podcasts, especially in their early stages, tend not to be cash cows. Shocker, I know. I too was blindsided by this news. Now, I didn't go into this for the money. I think that much is obvious. But unfortunately, books, research materials, and equipment aren't free. Please, go to patreon.com/Diogenes Lamp Podcast, and for less than the price of a coffee once a month, you can become a member and get access to bonus episodes, recommended reading lists and documentaries, shout-outs, and anything else we'll offer in the future as this project grows. If you are especially broke, hey, I get it, but please, make sure to give us a 5-star review when you listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to the pod on your preferred podcast listening medium. Your support is appreciated, and more importantly, it is needed in order to keep this operation going. On that note, I hope you have a great day, and now back to the show. Fellow fighter, we've sent you many messages to join the Civil Guard. Now we send you once more the chance to save yourself, the last. Come this evening and present yourself in the village of Kalivia, bringing your gun and other equipment. If you don't heed this last warning, you will be considered a traitor with all the consequences. Freedom for the people, death to fascism, Heracles. So,
wow, I love that.
Right. Welcome to episode 25, the British, the SOE, and MI6. Of course, the Diogenes Lamp Podcast. We're running this Greek Civil War segment. We got Dustin from NoneTaken. Thank you for taking the time, man.
Yeah, of course, man. I've been looking forward to this.
Appreciate it so much. We loved you on the episode on the commies. So.
It was, I never do this. I know people, as a podcaster, I'm not going to act like I don't have an ego. But I don't like to listen to my shows. But you were like, just get yourself caught back up. Maybe re-listen to that episode, because that was a few months ago that we did that, anyways.
Yeah, it was a few months ago.
So I enjoyed listening to it, because again, it was like connecting the dots on things that I kind of half remembered, and then it just made me super excited, because I know where we're going with this, and I'm really excited to learn this from you. And have it connect to other things that I kind of know, but this is a blind spot for me. So I'm not joking, man. I've been looking forward to this all day.
I love that. I wish all my listeners were like you. I have a listener in Qatar I don't know how or why.
It's wild, right? It's so crazy what we get to reach and who we get to connect with. Yeah.
It is cool. So let me give you some context on that episode. Or that quote that I just read.
Yes.
That is pretty much a freedom fighter, a rebel of the left, obviously. It said, death to fascism and all that.
Yeah.
To just like another villager, pretty much.
Just another villager, but he's also casually threatening his life. But
exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
It takes place in 1944.
Oh.
I didn't see where the village was, so it's about 2 to 3 years from where we're being at now.
Uh-huh.
But it just goes to show again that's the nature of how things turned out. Is where you had villager and villager, threatening each other.
Yes.
Pretty much either you're with us or you're against us.
Right.
And
all of this came because of the unraveling after World War II.
Right.
And
after World War II,
the factionalism. Yeah.
Exactly, the factionalism, the vacuum.
Lessons.
Long time coming, a lot of things we've talked about, and things we're going to talk about today.
All right.
So, I forgot already if I said the title of the episode, but it's the British, the SOE, and MI6.
Okay.
And as you can tell from the title, that's primarily who we're covering. Because they're playing a big story big role in our story. The Brits. I don't know if you've met a lot of British. Do you have a lot of experience with Britain? You been to Britain?
No, may go there in May. So the wife's family.
Oh, that'd be
so
cool.
That is so funny how this always turns out as a coincidence when I'm on here. So the wife's family is Greek and British. So her dad is like super British.
There's a lot of Cypriots in Britain. There's a lot of Greeks just in general in the UK.
That checks out. I'm seeing,
because it used to be a British colony.
Right.
Commonwealth until the 50s or whatever.
Right.
I think 56 or something like that. I forgot when.
So
but a lot of them have the UK citizenship as well. A lot of British Cypriots.
I see. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that angle on all of this, and it's that time period, right? I mean, the British had their fingers in everything, drawn funny maps, and
exactly.
Yeah.
It's the bloody Brits. The only experience I've ever had was we had a 12-hour layover in like London. It's fucking terrible.
Not enough time to leave the airport, right?
Well, the terrible thing is we had to go from Gatwick to Heathrow. We had to switch airports.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we got the flight like on freaking Flyer Miles.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
We were like broke, and it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And we had to switch there, and I had a hard time like not laughing at like stewardesses when they kept talking to me because it was the first time I ever met a British accent. I was like, "Stop it! You can't laugh at them." I'm like, "They're right there." She's like, "They're right in front of you."
I'm convinced they're faking it, right? Like,
it sounds fake.
Yeah,
you guys, I've seen this movie before. All right.
Well, you know the story, right? Like people came to America without it, and then they started talking differently. Like in the meantime, like in between the colonization of the U.S. and the Revolutionary War, it became popular to talk differently in England.
What?
Yeah. It's a whole thing. Yeah, they're faking it.
Never
faking
trust those Blitz. They're faking it. I knew they were faking it. That's why I laughed. I said, "Listen, I know what you guys are up to, Blitz. God save the Queen or whatever, the King or whatever."
Oh, not this one.
Yeah.
Maybe the Queen, but I don't think anybody cares about this one.
That's so funny. So, that's what we're talking about. British involvement. We'll be talking mostly about the SOE,
okay,
how they played a role in all of this that we're about to get into. I can't talk. We're also going to cover other British intelligence organizations like MI6. You may know MI6 because
James Bond, clearly.
Of course.
Yeah.
He's right. Yeah. James Bond. You watched the show called Slow Horses?
So Alan, my co-host, he recommended it, and I couldn't get past like the first 4 episodes. It was just too boring to start with. I know it gets good.
I know
it must
better.
get good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if
it's on 4 seasons, 5 seasons. Like everybody tells me that it's good. I trust everybody's opinion that likes it. I kept not caring enough to go back to it.
It gets a little better. Okay. It gets really cool the 3rd or 4th season. But those guys are MI5, as you know, MI6, James Bond, all that jazz. Let's start off with the SOE though. Okay. SOE starts for Special Operations Executive. SOE for short. It was established in June of 1940, so some 4-ish months before the Italians invaded Greece. And in sum, its primary purpose was to wage a secret war via subversion and sabotage behind enemy lines. So, like in other words, inside of countries and areas that were occupied by the Axis powers.
Okay.
Right? Throughout World War II, this will include everywhere you can really think of that's occupied by Axis powers. France, of course, Belgium, Albania, Yugoslavia, Italy. They even had a branch that operated in East Asia, Force 136, it was called. The primary backer, the biggest one, and the one that had that was the most important of the SOE was, I don't know if you want to guess, who's a big British player, this important British figure at this time.
Are we talking about like corporations or?
No, a politician.
Oh, Churchill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duh. Yeah, good guess. Exactly. And after France fell in 1940, Churchill gave his famous quote and his famous instructions, really, that the SOE should, and quote, set Europe ablaze.
Ooh.
You ever seen Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle?
Of course.
I might cut this part out because, but it's funny. But you know the part where they go to the White Castle, and the guy's like, they get into like some kind of conversation with the person who orders. He goes, "We're gonna burn this motherfucker down, Pokey."
Yeah.
And he starts tearing everything down.
Right. Yeah. Because the place isn't White Castle. He's mad that he just wants to be at White Castle. He wants some delicious burgers. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is how that went. That's right.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. I'm like, set Europe ablaze.
Yeah.
Burn this motherfucker down, right? That was Churchill's goal, right?
Yeah.
So a colonel, Colin Gubbins, I suppose was how you say it, was the SOE's first chief of training and operations. And the SOE quickly got to work training recruits on like the typical stuff you would expect an organization with the name like Special Operations Executive to train in, right? You want to take also a guess at some of that stuff?
I mean, I'm like demolitions, explosives, also,
all that shit.
finding foreign women to have sex with. And
there you go. Yeah, I don't have that on my list, but that's definitely part of it for sure. Yeah, exactly. Explosives, firearms, sabotage, unarmed combat, like how to kill people, also how to use special radios.
Okay.
Like secret
spycraft.
Yeah, spycraft, secret agent stuff, James Bond type stuff, really. And these SOE agents, believe it or not, they also had like the tech stuff that you would expect someone like James Bond to have, right? Provided to them via a facility. They even had their own facility staffed with scientists and technicians who developed weapons and gadgets to be used when sabotaging stuff, like with camouflage materials, really cool gadgets and doohickeys, stuff like suitcase radios. Interesting, right? Super important, obviously, for obvious reasons for agents. Silenced pistols, obvious.
Yeah.
A pen that held a single shot.
I was hoping it'd be a pen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Invincible.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? The single shot was only effective at close range, apparently. There was another model of this pen that fired a charge of tear gas instead of a bullet. And of course, you have like the less glamorous, but like still like super important stuff. Arguably even more important than all of that, which is forged IDs and documents.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And of course, explosives. Also really important.
Yeah.
Got to blow shit up. So by 1945, 13,000 men and women would be working for the SOE.
Whoa, 13,000?
13,000, yeah, across Europe. Both recruited from civilian life and from within the military.
Okay, you said by 1940?
By 1945.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, over the course of the war.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So one last thing, which I thought was really cool when I read this, these were all volunteers.
Cool. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All of them volunteers. So to get a bit of a better understanding of where the British-controlled SOE will stand in all of this, I think it's important for the listeners first to get a better understanding of what the British attitude was towards Greece. Okay. So the last big epic of Greek and British relations was way back during the Asia Minor campaign. This is the 1919 to 1922, where Greece and Turkey went at it, with the Treaty of Severus, which gave way to the Treaty of Lausanne. So just 3 days after the Armistice of Mudanya was signed in October of 1922, Britain's Chief of Staff issued a memorandum to the Foreign Office essentially recommending closer ties between Turkey and Britain instead of Britain and Greece. And to keep in mind, again, this is right after the fallout from the Asia Minor catastrophe and Lloyd George's and Venizelos' failed. Like, they had an Ionian vision of Greece becoming a Mediterranean power, stretching from the Balkans to the Black Sea to Cyprus. And it was a power that could then provide this is really interesting, actually, provide the British crown a firm, reliable, and continuous link to the new, loyal, and thankful ally Greece that they could protect, and then provide the British a link to its colonies in Egypt and thus the jewel of the crown in India. Right?
Yeah.
It all backfired. It did not end up. Greece did not get Constantinople, did not get Smyrna.
Yeah.
It all went up in flames, right, along with Smyrna. But you get the context.
Yeah.
So, like, this memorandum, it was like an analysis that the the foreign office or the British chief of staff had created. And it was like, it didn't pan out, go with Turkey. That was like, again, 1922. So from the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923 to the onset of World War II into the mid-late 1930s, Greek-British relations were mostly quiet, except, of course, when anything happened in Cyprus, right?
Yeah.
When Metaxas came on the scene, there was a bit of a mixed reception. Metaxas had the air of being a Germanophile, given his past education and especially his role in the Noemvriana. That was the World War I, when he was a royalist, and then Venizelos created his own government in northern Greece, which was pro-Entente. Venizelos and the king were pro-Central Powers, and Venizelos literally led paramilitaries and attacked British and French soldiers and killed them, literally. So he was exiled after that and sentenced to death in Vicentia, and then later was recalled. Yeah,
I want to say we talked about that a little bit last time, right?
Yeah, we talked about that, and if you really want to get more into it for the listeners too, we got a whole episode on that because it is.
What episode
important.
is that one?
Oh man,
text
me
afterwards. Yeah,
I'll text you afterwards.
Yeah.
You'll like it. You'll like it. Okay. It's solid. It's with that professor Dale Pappas that we talked
okay.
about.
Oh, then maybe I have listened to it, but it was out of order for me, so I didn't.
Yeah, he wrote a good article on it, and we get into that.
Okay.
So all that with Metaxas, plus his government had pretty overt fascist overtones of the regime, but there was also the king, who was a well-known friend of the British crown. He was very pro-British.
Okay.
The British ambassador at the time, Sidney Waterloo, stayed somewhat optimistic when the 4th of August regime came into being, and he relayed to his superiors that the king was really in charge and, we don't have anything really to worry about. Like, don't worry. Metaxas is a little, likes a lot of sauerkraut perhaps, but, the guys, Greece is still should be with us because we got the king in our back pocket. And while there's some truth to this, ultimately Metaxas, as we know, because we talked about this in past episode, would just do whatever was the best for Greece at the time, which we know again, because, again, we talked about this a lot, was to be pro-British. Because the British had Cyprus, right?
Yeah.
Italy had the Dodecanese Islands at the time, like Rhodes and those other big islands. So
Yeah.
it's what would Greece have gained by being with the Axis powers?
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Nothing,
Yeah.
And, Metaxas also apparently told Ambassador Waterloo very bluntly in December 36 about being pro-British. So, there's a lot of back and forth.
Okay.
This isn't to say Metaxas wasn't above playing in the gray, though.
Yeah.
Right? He's a politician. He did, undoubtedly, yada, yada. And in 1938, Metaxas admitted to a German minister that the king would oppose any pro-German policy, and even moving in the direction of being pro-German could very well lead to his downfall. Because remember, the king and Metaxas are together, right? They're a duo, per se. So, Metaxas knew he had to at least maintain the facade of being pro-British to everyone, regardless of how much he was or he wasn't or was willing to be or anything, right? Playing politics.
Yeah.
But, Metaxas is also very wary of the British. He wrote this in his diary and everything else. And, who isn't wary of the British or any great power?
Right.
It's like the Kissinger quote, which is just, I don't like to quote Kissinger because he's kind of an evil person. But, it's like being an enemy of the U.S. is dangerous, but being a friend of the of the U.S. is deadly or something like that.
Yep.
It's from a Rome Total War loading screen. An alliance with the strong is never to be trusted, right? Cicero or some guy like that or Seneca, one of those guys.
Man, I feel about Cicero about the same way people feel about Kissinger. I'm not a fan of Cicero.
Really? You are so...
Did we talk about that? Was that me?
No, Roman history is so over my head. I've tried, and I have listened to a lot of Mike Duncan's History of Rome. I think almost.
Yeah, it's a great one. Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
I just got to re-listen to it. But
and the old Dan Carlin, the decline of the death throes of the Republic. You can't go wrong with those. That's a great starting point for If you just know those,
there's such rich stuff.
It is.
Last time I was listening was about the Gracchus brothers and how they got
thrown in the Tiber and beaten with a
yeah. Well, so it's that's the British, right? An alliance with the strong, right? There's always you always got to be careful,
right?
Funny enough, though, it's not like the British necessarily wanted him to be overtly pro-British either.
Okay.
At the start of interesting, right? So at the start of September 1939, the CID, or the Committee of Imperial Defense, which was a committee within the Foreign Office, they requested an analysis on where Greece stood at the start of the now Second World War. And the analysis stated, and quote, "It will be to our advantage for Greece to remain neutral as long as possible, even if Italy declares war against us. As a belligerent, she," meaning Greece, "will undoubtedly prove to be a liability and will tend to absorb Allied resources which could be used elsewhere." Smart, actually. It does make sense.
Yeah. Little does he know it absorbed Nazi resources.
Right, exactly. How things turned out, right? So, you get the idea, right? The analysis goes on to talk about the use of Suda Bay, which is it's a U.S. naval base right now in Crete. It's actually really pivotal. And how Turkey remains neutral or joins the Axis powers that the Greeks may need to forcibly become allies of the British, which is exactly what happened in World War I with the Novembriana. The British and the French literally landed up by Thessaloniki and forced Greece to become, with Venizelos. Venizelos pulled off a coup and they kicked the king out. Right.
That was Venizelos area, right? Was it Thessaloniki?
Kind of.
Yeah.
He was really popular up north
Yeah.
and stuff like that. He was a Cretan. He was from Crete, but he was really popular. That was his
stronghold.
Yes,
was
exactly.
up north.
That was his parallel government he had carved out in the north.
Yeah.
Out of Thessaloniki, exactly. So yeah, that was like an actual analysis of a scenario that could have played out with the British. Now, this analysis kind of matches with what Metaxas was trying to do, which was keep Greece out of the war as long as possible. So like it all kind of worked out, and it helped avoid the similar situation that King George II's father fell into World War I, when King Constantine I got stuck in a who to choose situation, right? Which again, with the Novembriana, all that jazz. Anyways, you guys think I've talked about that enough. So, most British anxieties of Metaxas, aka Little Moltke, that was his nickname when he studied in Berlin. Moltke was he was like a Prussian commander.
Okay.
And apparently when he was in Berlin, the Kaiser went and he put his hand on Metaxas supposedly. And he said, if I had 5 like Metaxas, I'd conquer the world.
Okay.
He was really like, he was militarily, strategically very smart.
Yeah.
And he had a very good reputation in Berlin. So anyways, any chance of Metaxas being an ally of the Axis powers went away in October 1940. Actually, yesterday, exactly. We're recording this, guys, on October 29th, 2025. So one day after Orchi Day, No Day, national holiday. And this performance really reinforced British support for Metaxas. We saw all that in episodes 9 through 13 and the Battle of Crete episode as well, and yada yada. As for, though, what the SOE was up to during the war, but before the occupation of Greece, they already had agents in Athens as early as December 1940. So, like a month or two after the Italians, like if we were to transport to 1940 now, 2 months from now-ish.
Okay.
Well, what is it, 10? A month and a half?
Month and a half, yeah.
Yeah. And while
so
the
as a
SOE
response to what happened on the 28th.
Exactly.
Okay.
As a response, they were like, it's time. Let's get in there. And while the SOE stated that they would not partake of any actions without the approval of the British embassy in Athens, they were their own agency and they got down to business. They were like, whatever, we're doing your own thing.
The SOE?
The SOE, yeah, specifically. In a nutshell, and I'm quoting Andre Gerolymatos, the historian, directly from his book, Red Acropolis, Black Terror, the role of the SOE was to, quote, organize a network of agents to conduct such activity in anticipation of a possible Axis occupation, end quote. So, in anticipation, right? They quickly got to work. They made contacts with Venizelists, communists, and like any other groups, primarily groups who were considered opponents of the Metaxas dictatorship, the regime. So you may ask, why opponents of the regime, of the dictatorship? I think you're a pretty smart guy. And
controlled opposition or what?
It has to kind of do with control. Yeah, right from last episode.
Yeah, it is a good answer, yeah. It's been an answer before.
No. Yeah, kind of. It has to do with... Okay, well, let me give you this quote, and this will actually... And this quote, by the way, this is directly from the SOE report. Okay? Subversive activities must be based on a political concept. Effective sabotage and or guerrillas can only thrive if a revolutionary atmosphere has been created previously through political organizations. So the report goes on to talk about how everyone knew about this, including the Prime Minister, that the SOE was helping to arm and mobilize even communists. So back to your question, why opponents? Because they're already operating underground pretty much.
Yeah, and you just need to get them to do things along the lines of what you want.
Right.
Okay.
At the end of the day, you need just someone to do whatever. If they could have gotten monarchists and the regime to do what they wanted to prepare, they would have.
Yeah.
But the regime wouldn't have wanted that.
Right. So basically, they needed to find people that already had the motivation to fight against it, and whether they were on their side or not, they just wanted to get people that had an organization and steer them towards their objectives.
Right. And we know from last episode how organized the communists already were.
Yeah. They love having meetings.
They love having meetings and structure and bureaucracy and committees. Yes, exactly. They love having meetings. Those guys really love meetings, huh? Have meetings about having meetings is what it sounds like.
It does.
And you know what? They've been through a lot. Cats, castor oil.
Dog. I wanted to ask you if there's going to be cats in this one. I was telling my wife about this. We had a dog walk before the show. I was like, cats in a bag. And she's like, what? I was like, I feel bad for the cats. She's like, I would just like hold them and tell them it's okay. I was like, I don't think that's going to help you in that situation.
I don't know. Those cats really don't like water.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So like, per that report.
Hold on. Actually, I'm sorry. It is a very Greek thing to do to be like, well, we got a lot of cats. Like, what
we do have.
What are we going to do with all these cats? Like, oh, look at all these terrorists
with these cats.
Yeah, we're gonna torture these guys.
Put these cats to work.
Yeah. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. I knew I wanted to say that. I'm glad I had the chance to.
No, for sure. So like, back to that SOE report. Like, revolutionary atmosphere. Kind of like what you were saying. Like, what better candidate could you ask for than the commies? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
However you may or may not agree with their, commies are commies.
There was an organizational structure to tap into.
Exactly. They have a very strong organizational structure, and they have that revolutionary zeal that you would want for something like this. And if your only goal is to organize resistance to kill Nazis, then why wouldn't you use them?
Yeah.
That's all you give a shit about.
Right. If you don't like them and they take power later, you can deal with that then.
Right.
Something people who don't like MAGA don't seem to understand in our country. Like, you can fight against Kamala Harris after she wins the presidency, or Dearborn, Michigan, you could just vote for Donald Trump. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make it into American politics. I'm sorry.
No, we always go down that route. It doesn't matter. I was going to at some point anyways. Trust me. There's no concept of that in this country. And it's funny because that is something that is... Oh my God, let me just go ahead and say it. Okay, so the SOE primarily recruited from Venezuelans and communists, right?
Yeah.
The Foreign Office was another British intelligence branch that was also recruiting. Guess who they recruited from?
The fascists.
Yeah, the king and the monarchists.
The monarchists, yeah.
And this also included MI6, who were very well connected with monarchists. But also with Metaxas, which Metaxas, Venezuela's Metaxas, the follower Metaxas.
Okay.
Ridiculous, huh?
Yes. But also very British. And there's a phrase
British,
there's a phrase that I always remind myself. Foreign policy by nature becomes conflict. Like you become conflicted. Like you're, like you can't, just foreign policy by nature. Once you start meddling into it, you start to have conflicting narratives. It's always going to be a thing.
Things are it's very hard to not, almost impossible. I mean, there was even a report, it was kind of exaggerated. I read into it, but it was a report about how, like, I'm sure you've heard of it, like Pentagon-funded rebels are fighting.
Oh, yeah. CIA-backed
rebels in Syria and stuff like that, and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And it's just like...
And then they take over Syria, and we invite them to the White House.
Yeah, exactly. Ex-Al-Qaeda president.
Wild world, man.
Kyrie eleison, Lord of mercy. So, in sum, as you can see, the before and after the occupation takes place, there will be a divergence of sorts in regards to who is supporting who within the British camp. Okay, so let's get back to late 1940, sometime shortly, and this will definitely not cause any issues in the future, of course.
Right, would it? Yeah. Oh my God. Wait, hold on. Are these the seeds of the whole... Oh, that's why we needed to know all that, because these are literally the seeds of what happens. God damn it. Oh, God damn it. I told you I didn't know this yet, so I'm learning. Oh, wow. Okay.
It's a big part of it. It's not all of it.
Yeah, but it didn't help.
It didn't help at all. It did not help at all. Right. And you're going to see the British are going to do a bunch of other stuff. I don't want to play into... Listen, it definitely is a big part. Like, I used to talk to my I just hear stories from old people like my grandma and stuff who lived through the war, and they would say shit like, and I don't believe this story, but stuff like on one side of the mountain, they would drop boots, the British. On the other side of the mountain, they would drop coats, and one side was occupied by different factions. I think that's an exaggeration. This is anecdotal stories and evidence, which you
But there's a truth to it, though, right? Like there's a reason why that's said.
Yeah, this is a poor villager, and fact is this person had no clue what was being dropped,
Yeah.
But it's just anecdotal, and it does give credence to the fact that there was a lot going on, and there was definitely this kind of thing going on, right?
Yeah.
So, this is part of what causes issues. It definitely didn't make anything better. So, Oh my gosh.
So we're still in like 1940, right?
We're still in
December-ish.
late 1940.
Okay.
Yeah, like October, December.
Okay.
December-ish. So sometime shortly after the Italian attack on Greece, around December 1940, to the first month or two of 1941, the MIR, or Military Intelligence Research, and Section D, which I don't know what the D stands for, maybe defense. It's another like
British.
you know, like exactly, British intelligence thing. They start to really lay the groundwork for preparation of an Axis occupation of Greece. Don't worry too much about MIR and Section D. They're both going to end up becoming part of the SOE anyways. So Section D agents were able to stockpile and create inside of the British consulate in Athens, which were essentially like sabotage kits.
Okay.
Like a goodie bag, right? Of like fun stuff. If you weren't actually going to be a spy and possibly die, then like if it was a video game, you'd be like, cool.
Yeah.
But if it's real life,
Loot
you're like,
bag.
shit.
Yeah.
So what's in these goodie bags? Inside of that,
Cats.
it was pretty much cats. For the communists, we have castor oil, a bag of cats. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'll give you a gun, I guess. That too.
Okay.
So they would get 4-gallon petroleum cans.
Okay.
And explosives, a saboteur's handbook translated into Greek, 100 British pounds of Greek currency, 2 pistols with ammo, of course, 2 or 3 brass knuckles, some knives, stuff like that.
Okay. Could
do some damage.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, just like basic stuff you'd expect a saboteur to have.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. So while these kits are being created, around 300 to 400 potential agents were being trained. So
that's not nothing.
Amount.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, all this stuff Section D was up to was happening without the knowledge or approval of the Metaxas government.
Okay.
So while the British government and everyone within the British government, the intelligence service, knew that they were organizing communists and both sides and stuff like that, whatever, the Greek government was not privy, was unaware.
Okay.
Yes. So the MIR was in cooperation with the Greek government, doing other military research stuff, but Section D, which was organizing this stuff, the saboteur kits and stuff in the embassies, was not.
Okay.
Which, again, Section D later becomes part of SOE. Also, like, keep in mind, it's bad for, like, morale when your allies, like, already planning for your downfall.
Right.
It's like, what are you doing over there? Don't worry about it. You know, just planning for when, 500,000 Nazi soldiers come storming through Bulgaria and crush you in like a week. So something else too that I think is important to mention is that when understanding like the formation of the Greek resistance, is that the politicians and the military leaders and the ruling elite at the time as a whole were simply not interested in mass resistance. We're going to see this again and again. Some here and there had some variation of Axis sympathies, and that's not necessarily mean they were full-blown on Nazis, but whether they believed the Axis would come out on top or not, or others simply believed it was not the job of the population to resist, that it was the job of the professionals and not the average Joes. And there were Nazis, of course. Like, there were Greek collaborators that literally came out, were translators.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is really similar to Italy's story in that time period. Not to compare the two. I know that we're especially in this context.
I'm not too familiar.
Okay. Well, so I know the thing with Italy was that, I mean, for centuries, this village was isolated from that village because of the mountainous landscape. So you had an opportunity for this place to not only hate that neighbor, but also not have anything really in common with them. Was that somewhat true with that type of terrain and area and villages in Greece too? Yeah,
there are villages that, for example, where I'm from, there's a little village next to us that we call Little Moscow.
Got it. I think
and
you
it's
said
one
enough.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is in the heart of southern Greece in the Mani Peninsula.
So that provides an opportunity for, like, this town is a collaborator, this town are its partisans, this town, right? Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are all communists.
Right.
Don't go to this town.
Right.
I mean, there's certain areas of Greece that are known for being monarchists. That are known for being more liberal, more, it is very much regionality. And geography, I'd say, definitely plays a role. So,
not to mention island to island. I mean, we're just talking mainland.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. Even when you talk about islands, they're even more isolated.
Of course.
Than even
that's historically accurate. I mean, that's kind of been a big deal.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, like, for example, in regards to, like, elites, military and political elites, right? There was a monarchist colonel, for example, Christos Kytios. He made it back to Athens after Crete fell, and he advised Greek officers that it was in the king's interest not to get involved with any resistance movements that were brewing on the other side of the political aisle.
Okay.
AKA, don't get involved with the Venizelos or the liberals or the communists.
Okay.
You know, if you're a monarchist.
Just leave them be.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, just leave them be. Like, don't get involved.
Okay.
But this aversion to mass organized armed resistance, it wasn't just coming from the right either. The left political elite as well. There were orders from leaders, most notably from liberal politician George Kafandaris, who openly discouraged his followers from getting involved in any resistance movements, saying that doing so could result in the country being annihilated, when the Axis reprisals would expectedly be handed out, which is exactly what happened when they did this. So, yeah, I mean, in some, I guess, and I had to talk to Dale Pappas, the professor, on this, because I was just like, am I understanding this correctly? I was like, that it's pretty much was a homegrown at the lower level of society, like the political military elites were just so out of touch with what people wanted. He's like, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But homegrown by who?
The Greeks.
Okay.
Like the SOE was, and that's the thing too. And if you read that one, there's an author, Haris Vlavianos, he talks about this, and it does make sense. Is you don't want to go down the route that the Greeks were manipulated by the British. It zeroes out agency of the Greeks.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like the Greek people did have their own agency to decide. They weren't just puppets manipulated by the Russians and the British. And
Those people tapped into were legitimate things that were going on within the Greek population.
Yes. And
maybe it was exaggerated, but
yeah. Yeah. And maybe the British helped for sure and this and that, and they did their thing that didn't helped with this, but didn't help with that or made things worse. But the resistance was something the Greek population, from what I've read and seen across the board, wanted, because of what they had suffered so much under the Axis powers already at the start with the famine and everything. So, like, I know it's all like confusing, and some of it may sound even contradictory, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
But like in some, yes, the SOE recruited more so from the left, in the Foreign Office more so from the right.
Okay.
While the military political elite from both sides were not really up for it by any means.
Okay.
So this is another really great quote, again from Andre Gerolymatos. R.I.P. He died of like a heart attack like 5 or 8 years ago or something.
Oh.
His book was the first book. Red Acropolis Black Terror was the first like big quote unquote history book I read when I was 15, 16 on the Greek Civil War.
So I wrote that down when you said that earlier. I'm going to check
Red
that
Acropolis
out.
Black Terror.
Yeah. Okay,
awesome.
Cool. Okay, great.
Book.
I'll add it to my list.
It starts off with the execution of the Six in 1923.
That's like the opening chapter?
After the fallout of the Asia Minor catastrophe, and he pretty much talks about how all these generals that executed those 6 monarchist politicians, including the former prime minister and all those guys, would go on to be involved with every single, and they've been characters in our story all the time. And I go back to that's how I start the Greek Civil War series as well, right? We talk about the execution of the 6 and the more recent monarchist primers. We go deep into the execution of the 6, but it's a great book.
Cool. I'm adding it to my list.
Great book. So this quote from him is a really cool quote. He goes, quote, "Strange assortment of individuals from the fringes of society. Left-wing radicals liberated from the grip of the Metaxas security apparatus. Disenchanted army officers, smugglers, communist renegades, police informants, displaced persons, prostitutes, thieves, and bandits gravitated to clandestine warfare like moths to light. Some were compelled by adventure, others by patriotism. Most joined because hiding from the authorities had become as much a lifestyle as a means of survival."
Dude.
I know, right? When I read that, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a great list.
I know. I want to party with these guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want that to be like a description of like the listeners of my podcast. Like,
yeah, I know, right? Prostitutes, smugglers, thieves, patriots, police informants, everyone. And it's kind of like, goes back to the big umbrella nature that we had even talked about last time. We talked a bit about how it's just these things serve as a uniting force. Unfortunately, it took like a famine that killed hundreds of thousands of people and, a brutal Axis occupation. But these things tend to unite people.
Yes.
There's one of my favorite podcasts is Lions Led by Donkeys. I don't know if you know them.
I feel like you've mentioned it before. That sounds
they're
right.
They're a lot of like vets, like military vets. One of them actually went to is from Michigan, where I'm from, and
I used to live in
he
Michigan.
wrote a book called Hooligans of Kandahar, and it's like an anti-hero book. It's just a frank book about his experiences in Kandahar, Afghanistan, obviously. And they have a thing on there. They said the universal theory of "fuck that guy." Right, where if everyone hates one person, it unifies people.
Yeah,
right.
Right. Okay.
So, anyways, last point. A lot of these underground groups didn't swallow so much of the stigma of working with a foreign power secret intelligence service as much as, let's say, a hardcore Metaxist or a royalist would have. Right? Like, if you're a communist, then you're like, fuck it, I don't even believe this is the legitimate government anyways of Greece.
Okay.
Right?
Uh-huh.
You're like, hail Lenin, hail Stalin, I'm a communist, right? If
you're
a Venizelos, you're probably somewhere along the same line. You're like, fuck the king, Venizelos was the shit. R.I.P., right?
Right.
But if you're a royalist, you're like teetering on treason.
To consider that.
Yeah, to consider operating with a foreign country's
government.
intelligence.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right.
Right,
but the people that were involved that you told earlier, they all knew that they were.
Yes.
Okay, all right. No, they didn't get misled.
Yes.
They just were open to it.
No, they wanted to.
Yeah, okay.
They wanted to.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff was all word of mouth because,
right.
It was back then and it had to be.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody had a Facebook post. And you weren't exactly
all
putting a
these
flyer
people
up
were
at a
like,
coffee shop.
Are you drinking ouzo?
No, I'm drinking whiskey. I'm drinking some
Oh, it looked like the cap, the way the cap was.
Right.
Similar.
I should. Next time I come on, I'll have some ouzo.
Oh,
yeah.
no. Maybe I'll sip with you.
Yeah, I do like ouzo.
That's what I really should do. I should get
That's a great call, man. I'm doing this all wrong.
I got some nice stuff. It's called, I'll have to show you a place where you can get it. It's called Racomelo. Are you familiar with Raki?
Not by name.
It's like moonshine.
Okay.
For like the Balkans and Greece.
Yeah,
and a lot of the Middle East and stuff. It's like that, but it's honey moonshine. It's really good. You'd like it a lot.
Well, send me that in the DM.
Yeah, for sure. So now that we've covered who the SOE are a bit more and what they do and like what their aims are and stuff, let's make our way through our story. Jump to the end of April of 1941, which is like the start of Axis occupation of mainland Greece.
Yeah.
Zoom out a bit and look at what the British policy towards Greece was at the time, which came down to like two uncompromising principles, right? One, the king and his government were the legitimate representatives of the Hellenic state. Full stop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Two, Britain could neither sanction anyone or impose anyone, and by anyone I mean political change, during the war. Keyword during, right? After the war, we're going to see later. Yeah. So, like, obviously this runs a bit contrary to what British actions were creating on the ground, like directly arming and organizing groups that were against the first point, like commies, obviously, and some Venizelos who would have considered the king who would not have considered the king the legitimate government. We talked about the long-term implications of all that jazz.
Yeah.
Right? Also, let's read between the lines of those 2 points as well, right? There's a lot of ambiguity in all that stuff. It's pretty vague stuff. So this isn't just me saying this or having come to this conclusion. C.M. Woodhouse, who was an SOE operative who was on the ground in Greece helping organize resistance, also acknowledged this. He has a book called Apple of Discord. It's one of the several books he wrote about during his time in Greece. And he wrote, and quote, this is a good line, quote, "There was no such thing as His Majesty's government policy towards Greece in the sense of a fixed set of objectives laid down in advance."
That sounds right.
Right? Yeah. British foreign policy has never been something that is laid down in advance to be achieved. I know, what a line, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of what may happen between its formulation and its execution. It is rather an emergent character which can gradually be detected amongst the welter of ad hoc discussion.
Okay, I didn't want to say
whatever
this,
we want.
Right. I didn't want to say this earlier, but in the context of that statement, this reminds me so much of their policy towards Iran, Like this reminds me of like,
with Mossadegh? Or?
Yeah, like just like everything up until the revolution, and more and more American involvement. But like the whole history of the British involvement with Iran is very much the same way, where it's like, well, we'll kind of do this and we'll just see where that takes us. And then from there, we'll do that. And then, we'll back
It's
this
true.
guy. But yeah.
And you know what? This time frame isn't that far
No,
off.
it's not.
What was that? The
Yeah.
50s?
Yeah.
50s?
Yeah. And it was going on a while before that too, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. You read that the book, All the Shah's Men?
No, everybody recommends that one. I read a really good one that I would recommend. Having not read that one, it's a great name. It's a really creative name. It's called The United States and Iran. Or it might just be the USA and Iran. It's a guy with like dual citizenship, or he's an American whose family is Iranian. And,
no way.
And he relied on a bunch of firsthand sources that he used to, as his reporting on it. It's very good.
Check that out.
If you've read all the Shah's Men, I'm sure you've seen it. But this one's like, this actually goes back to like the 1800s and like, because the U.S. was obsessed with Persia back then and stuff, right? Like you look at.
Yeah, it's part of the Great Game or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
British spy stuff.
Yeah.
Rudyard Kipling or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
all that jazz. So where were we?
I know. Don't let me take us so far afield. I will.
No, it's
this can be a
fine.
2-hour
I like
podcast as far as I'm concerned, but I don't know what you want.
Yeah, that's true. I always hear you and Dustin always talking about we need to get this down to 1 hour.
I know. I never do it. Yeah.
So I was gonna say, speaking of cats, how's your cat with its boogers?
It's not good, but we did take him to a vet recently, where we found out that if we give him a nasal flush, it'll be better. So I get to hold my cat under the sink or whatever a nasal flush is for a cat.
Nasal flush.
Yeah. Put him in a bag. Let's probably put him in a bag. Dip him in water.
Yeah, put him in a bag.
Well, that's not
Got any
funny.
communists around here? Where's a bag?
He's a good boy. He's a good boy. I would never.
God bless him.
Yeah.
You would never put him in a bag with a bunch of communists and
Not with a
submerge in the water,
commie,
you're
no.
saying?
Yeah.
Good cat owner.
Yeah.
Good cat owner. So if we need any other clarification of where British foreign policy stands in regards to all of this, the situation, who is and who will be in charge as of now and in the future of Greece, let's hear it from the British bulldog himself,
Nice.
Churchill, who stated in a policy memo to the British ambassador to Greece that, and quote, "The king is the servant of his people. He makes no claim to rule them. He submits himself freely to the judgment of the people as soon as conditions are restored. He places himself and his royal house entirely at the disposition of the Greek nation. Once the German invader has been driven out, Greece can be a republic or a monarchy entirely as the people wish," which will definitely be kind of honored. He kind of, we'll see later. He does this thing, and he kind of forces them a bit on them. He does not listen to the will of the people. Surprise.
Okay. I'm not surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right. So yeah, legitimacy was like a big overarching thing with the king in the eyes of the British and stuff, and yada yada
Sure.
yada. And there was like a slew of other issues as well regarding what direction the Greek resistance should take, if any, and who would lead it. For example, another big issue was that any correspondence that were made to be read by the king, the Greek king, whether that be a policy brief from MI6 or the SOE or the Foreign Office, or just some Greek colonel or general who was on the ground during the occupation of Greece, in the thick of it all, any of those actors who made something for the king to read, those documents or reports were heavily censored by the British before the king even read them. Obviously, this is problematic.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So, like, if there was a report that a Greek colonel, like, Plastiras, or I think Plastiras was in France at the time, I have to look into that. But if there was a general that was on the ground that wrote a report and it ran contrary to what the British were saying or didn't line up with what British policy wanted to be, they could just edit it or just block it altogether.
Wow. That's,
It's
okay.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not going to give you a good result. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to give you a good result. It's like great.
Very British.
So
they know.
Yeah,
best.
very British.
They know best.
Cheerio. Yeah, very British. So
let's
get back to developments occurring on the ground and travel back to the very start of the occupation.
So
End of
April 41.
April 41.
Okay.
Exactly. So as we know, we mentioned in past episodes, there were mostly small acts of resistance during the start of the occupation, stuff like prostitutes refusing to have sex with Axis soldiers, anti-Axis graffiti, cheering and clapping when British POWs were seen being transported in the streets and greeting them with food and cigarettes, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And while mass resistance didn't really fire up until September of 1941, on the flip side, it would be remiss to state that it would be remiss to not say that there weren't well-documented reports of Nazi collaborators emerging almost immediately to help the new occupiers.
Okay.
Right? Might have messed up on that double negative.
No, it made sense. Yeah, you'd have to say that there was collaborators.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It'd be reckless to say that.
That's a part of the story of World War II, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's every society kind of has that in them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Unfortunately.
Grumbles in American.
Yeah. For my listeners outside of the U.S., I don't know if I want to live in Qatar, but I'm mostly happy. The ones listeners in Australia, that sounds nice.
Doesn't sound bad. Yeah. Yeah.
Australia is nice. So, anyways, everyone from just like the incel, Nazi, pro-fascist Greek type, they were husbands of German spouses, criminals, business people, some of the senior military command, most notably General Tzolakoglu, who became the first quote-unquote prime minister of the occupied state. They're like bootlickers, right?
That's what's the guy in France? Who was the Vichy?
Oh, it was Vichy. No,
What was the?
Here, I'll tell
It's
you.
okay. I don't need to stop your show for that. But yeah, it's the same thing as that, right? Like there was somebody who was more than happy to be like, I'll be in charge of your room.
Pétain.
There we go.
Pétain.
There's a
Am I
reason
saying
why.
that with
There's
a
a reason
French
why.
accent?
There's a reason why I forgot his name. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
French is never my strong suit at all. So, these guys like help to translate, interrogate, torture, of course, serve as informants, the standard stuff, right? And if we need any reminder of what the Nazi occupation was like, and you're just tuning in again, there was something, reports vary, but there's something around 100,000 Greeks died of starvation and disease just in Athens alone.
Okay.
Cats, dogs, rats were eaten. Every morning, vans would come to pick up the dead bodies. When fuel was out, carriages with horses came to take the dead bodies. And when that was no longer able. Anyways, let me read this quote because, again, Gerolymatos says it better than I can, right? Quote, "For many survivors, images of emaciated children standing vigil over a dead parent and to small piles of corpses stacked by street corners are some of their haunting memories of the famine." So it was really bad.
Yeah.
And that's why a big deal, too, why, my mom wasn't born during World War II, but the village where my mom was born was burned down by the Nazis.
Yeah.
Right? When my grandma was 16, the Nazis burned the village down.
No, that'll
when she was
make
18.
intergenerational trauma.
Yeah, of course. And you see all the conflicts in the world, not
Yeah.
to say any, but you can tell, this stuff is not going to be solved in a generation. It needs generations of reconciliation and peace.
Right.
And, So, that's a big reason why a lot of Greeks were pissed during the austerity and the Euro crisis when Germany was doing all this, especially because we signed off on their debt forgiveness in 1953 on the London Debt Conference. There's a big thing. You can check it out. It's called the London Debt Conference. Germany, after World War II, ran up a debt-to-GDP ratio of something crazy, 250%. And they got something like 60% of their sovereign debt wiped out. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. By the way, we're almost done. We got 3 pages. I'm sorry, bro.
All right. No, I don't mind. I meant it. We can keep going. I'm gonna be sad that I want to know where else we're gonna go. You got to bring me back on for the next part of this, then.
The next one will be specifically on what the communists organize.
Okay.
Which will become the largest resistance group.
Okay.
It's cool. It's cool. It is really cool. So anyways, on May 30th, just 3 days after Axis powers marched into Athens, saboteurs armed with British-supplied explosives blew up and sank 2 Axis ships in Piraeus port.
Okay.
Woo.
Yeah. Wow. Dude, that would be like that sounds like cinematic, right? Like imagine they're marching through and then boom, these boats start blowing up. Were they coordinated? Did they happen around the same time?
They were coordinated. There was also the day after there was another coordinated massive explosion of a munitions dump in Thessaloniki.
In Thessaloniki?
Yeah, so in northern Greece, right? So which the capital and pretty much the co-capital
Yeah.
of Greece. So whether these acts were carried out by Venizelos-backed rebels or communist-backed rebels, is up for
It was the
debate.
British either way. Or not, sorry, it was the British-backed rebels resistance
yeah,
groups.
It was the resistance through and through.
Uh-huh.
Different historians say differently. Like Mazower is kind of like a big deal.
Does it
Mark
matter
Mazower.
whether they were, which faction they were at
You could
this
say
phase
for,
of it? Like,
street cred,
yeah, okay. Because later on it will matter when it comes to the Civil War, right?
kind of. Yeah, it'll kind of matter street cred stuff. But these are all just so like early stuff. I mean, it's a big deal.
These are partisans resisting the occupation.
Yeah,
Okay.
low key though.
Yeah.
This is still at the stage when. This is before the groups were organized. We're going to see like factions will start emerging next episode. We're going to go after that. We'll go over that. Have like names. They have theme songs. You can YouTube some of them.
Wow.
You can YouTube.
Okay.
These different factions, they're like become like sports teams.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
Like Edes, Eam, Elas. They all have
And
Ekukua.
and these are they're not working with each other.
They do for a bit.
Okay.
And they start killing each other.
Okay.
And then
Right.
they
Which is
get swallowed up.
which
by
is
each other.
where we go.
Right,
Yeah.
where we're heading towards. So, the Germans decided at this point to start executing hostages as reprisals, and they started like burning people's homes and shit like that, right? Because obviously,
Yeah.
in July there was a clash between a group of demobilized Greek soldiers and a German detachment up in Kozani in like northern Greece-ish that resulted in the Germans burning a couple villages. And slowly, more reports began to emerge of armed bands. So after the the Greeks blocked the Italians, as we know, we just had Ohide. They blocked the Italians, pushed them back in Albania, took a little bit of southern Albania, northern Epirus. And then after that, the Germans kind of came down through Albania and they like cut off 200,000 Greeks in Albania and then just like, gunned it, like blitzkrieg. It was the last successful blitzkrieg of Europe, right? What they did, though, the Germans, is they allowed the Greek military to demobilize. So you now had hundreds of thousands of military-age men. What does this remind you of, American Patriot?
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm going the wrong way, but I was going to say after Afghanistan, like what?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Afghanistan, Iraq.
Yeah.
Most famously Iraq, of course, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh wow.
That's right. History repeats itself.
Yeah.
Isn't it fucking crazy?
Yeah. So by allowing them to demobilize, and now that didn't mean they disarmed them, right? That's the point. Right?
They disarmed them, but still.
Yeah.
There were reports of them just letting them go. The Germans at the start, they weren't like super like pro, like I don't want to go down the thing of like the Nazis really like they did admire Greece because they're Nazis and civilization and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But it doesn't mean they won't commit genocide against them because they're fucking Nazis.
Right.
Right.
But also they were all methed out anyways. They're like, yeah, we got them. Let's move on. We got to go over here now. I wanted something else. Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah, we got other guns.
Keep moving. Keep moving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. When you're on meth, I imagine you're having Panzer chocolate meth and whatever like they used to give them.
Yeah.
They a lot of them so they were all demobilized and like exactly right like post 2003 Iraq Bush had debathification, had hundreds of thousands.
Oh,
of,
that's what you meant. Yes. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Right. Bush demobilized.
Right. Jesus. Okay, I actually understand what you meant better than that. Oh my god.
Yeah, because now you have all these dudes. They're not getting paid.
Right.
They're idle.
Fighting age with access to weapons. What are you gonna do? Yeah.
They were all just fighting, so they have military experience.
Yeah. You're not exactly their friend, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the German occupation we talked about in previous episodes was terrible, right? They were stealing everything. They were stealing people.
Right. I was actually gonna say, like, give Caesar some credit. He would show clemency, but then he'd bring you aboard. Like it's like, okay, clemency, and then just like go over there somewhere, right here where you live, where I'm occupying. It's like, how do you think this is gonna work out, buddy? Like
exactly. Yeah. It's you get what this is what winning looks like, right?
Yeah.
That's the famous quote by Obama.
Yeah.
With I think it was Afghanistan. Oh, God, he's like, we're training them, and anyways, I don't want to get into it. So as we move on to the fall of 1941, resistance organizations start to formally organize. Some are straight up armed resistance organizations, while others serve more of a purpose to help alleviate the daily suffering of people, to fill the role of the inept state, which was an Axis puppet, right?
Uh-huh.
So there are organizations like EEAM, EAM, EDAS, which will all have their own episodes.
Okay.
Just so you know, they're like biggish outfits. Let's just continue on with the British for now, though. So let's talk about secret agents, Dustin.
Ooh.
Who doesn't like a good secret agent,
Yeah.
right? So for a while leading up to the Axis occupation of Greece, we talked about British intelligence services, whether they be MI6, SOE, or Foreign Office. They've been trying with some success to create saboteurs, organize them, yada, yada. We talked about the kits, all that jazz.
Yeah.
But some of these groups did get busted kind of quick, per se, right?
That was probably
So for a
bad
bit
for
of
all their
time-
friends and family, right?
What was that?
That was probably bad for all their friends and family too, right?
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
Because that's, everybody gives the partisans in France all the credit, which they deserve for standing up to the Nazis, but nobody ever talks about the resistance movements in, Italy and Greece and these other occupied
Yeah,
countries.
there were a lot in the Balkans and stuff. Yugoslavia had a really strong one.
Yeah. But the romanticized, all the ones that are romanticized are the French, they make countless movies about that. But
I almost think it's because it has to do with France is just easier to shoot movies. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. And there was probably more Americans that, spent time
True,
in
good
there.
point.
Yeah.
And more British as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
That kind of thing. Plus, to be fair, France was a bigger deal. D-Day happened there, all that jazz.
Sure. It was a direct route to Germany.
Yeah. It was right next to Germany.
Yeah.
So I do get it.
Well,
Plus,
go
who
on.
gives a shit about the Balkans?
Fair, but
To be fair, I picked
don't
a too
tempt
niche
me into
of a
saying
podcast. don't degrade your own podcast.
I said,
niche.
don't tempt me to say bad things about the Balkans. I'm more than happy to.
You could say bad things about your Balkans. I won't be offended. Other people may be offended.
Well, I mean, it's just like, it's a classic example of like, why don't we just, every time we start bickering amongst each other, it's like, well, I mean, can't you just look at the Balkans and see how it worked out there? Why are we doing this here? Like it's
doing this shit. You want to hear a funny thing, and then we'll move on. Do you know this guy, this YouTube account called Geography Now?
no, but I will.
So there's this thing called Geography Now, and he's like, here's the Balkans. Here's how everyone hates each other. And he like perfectly, I thought, summed up how everyone hated each other and why, right? In like, whatever, a minute or two.
Yeah.
So I comment, as a Greek, this is spot on, right? The next person that comments goes, and this gets like 2,000 likes. So I immediately post, I go, please listen to my podcast. It gets like 5 likes, of course. But whatever.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's how it goes. Then the next comment is a guy that goes, as a Turk, oil up. And I go, what?
Oh, no.
I said, what?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'll post it. As a Turk, oil up. And I look at his location. Of course, he's in Berlin.
Yeah, of course. It's always Berlin as a Turk.
always
Yeah.
Berlin.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
my
like,
God.
are you talking about raping me
It's
with
what
oil? Is that what you're alluding to?
I was hoping that wasn't where we were going with it, but that is where the
Please
mind goes
speak your
to.
words clearly,
Yeah.
because it sounds like...
Like, I don't know that, like, is this the flex you think it is? Okay, I subscribe to
Yeah,
Geography
exactly.
now. Yeah.
I went on his Instagram, it was all like motorcycles and stuff. I was like, maybe the guy really likes motor oil. I
Yeah.
don't know.
That
he's
maybe
just
that's
into
it. Yeah.
that. Yeah, maybe that's it. So,
All right. So you were saying that a lot of these partisan groups
a
got
lot of
played.
the smaller groups, yeah, we're getting broken up, just at the very infant stages. Okay. And there was a bit of a communication blackout, you could even say, at the start of Greece. It was just hard to get in there. It was hard to get info in and out.
Yeah.
It's like today there's like a media blackouts in parts of Syria.
Well, I mean, all you had to
stuff
do was
like
cut
that.
telephone cables, and that was-
Exactly.
yeah.
Back then, that's all you had to do. Was,
Right.
snip
And if there was
done.
poverty, people would cut it for the wire. Like it was. That
Oh,
was a,
no
that was
shit. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's
There's a
right.
really good diary called Naples 44. I recommend it.
Interesting.
If you do audiobooks, it's like a 6-hour audiobook. Like those are always.
Is it on whatever?
It's on Audible. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really so. It's a German OSS agent or officer who he goes into Salerno during the like the.
This looks cool.
Oh yeah,
Looking
it's
it up now.
it's really good. So it starts off with him describing like his like slapdash training, and then being thrown into Salerno as they liberate Italy or not. It's 1943 Italy campaign, and just going in with like a handgun. And like getting on some motorcycles and then just like ending up in Naples and then just like his time in 1944 in Naples. I don't know why I said this though. What did you say that made me think of that? I'm sorry.
Getting busted early on,
No.
like small time spies and stuff
Maybe.
like that.
I don't know. I apologize.
It's
I
all
should
right. I
keep
liked
track
it.
of my diversions. It's not fair. I have ADHD.
Do not worry.
Okay.
I'm the diversion king. It looks cool.
Yeah,
Norman
it's-
Lewis,
it's
Naples
really good.
44.
Yeah.
He also wrote a couple other things, actually.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Cool. Check those out. But I've enjoyed this.
Yeah.
A lot of talks about prostitutes in this too.
Yeah. Oh, and there? Yeah,
Yeah.
these guys.
Yeah.
These guys and prostitutes, trust me, it's a thing.
It's a part of war. It's a part of war. Oh, that's what it was. He was talking about how people kept stealing the copper cables with the copper.
That's what
and he was like, well, the Germans put up these telephone wires, so I thought it was okay if I took it. It was like, no, we're using them now. Stop it. Like,
this isn't Detroit. In 2010.
That's what dude. It's you haven't been to Naples, right? I spent 2 weeks in Italy. I don't have any interest in going back to Naples. Like, oh my gosh, like
it's rough.
It's a mafia town. Like it's obvious that it was. Like the mafia is like from Sicily and like Naples, right? I know,
it's mostly a southern Italian thing.
Right. But like Naples would be like the city in southern Italy. Obviously, when you think of the mafia, you should think of Sicily. But if you're thinking of like mainland Italy, you should be thinking of Naples.
Calabria, probably down there.
And it just, that region was beautiful, and I'm glad I went to that region. I had a great time at the beach in Sorrento. I went to Capri, and I say Capri, not Capri, because I've been there and I have to say it that way.
It's like me saying Ibiza.
Exactly. And I enjoyed Minori, but I didn't care for Amalfi. That was just a tourist trap. Everybody told me, and I did it anyways. But I will probably never go to Naples again. Like it is so like when you hear this, like he had a lot of stories about like the mafia in Naples in that book. It's so good. And it's a quick read, man. It's a super fast read.
Yeah, I know. I love those.
Yeah. And it's not about the Italy campaign. It's about what it's like to be a human in 1944 Italy. Like that's those are really important. Those kinds of accounts, perspectives.
Really yeah, for sure. You need that.
Yeah.
From a historical standpoint, you have to understand because it humanizes the experience.
Oh yeah, you can like learn the military campaign, but like to see what it's like for human beings and how people treated each other and interacted and what it was like to survive. Yeah,
and the reality of what it really meant to be under Axis occupation, starving, and watching people around you die or this or that.
Yep.
So we talked about hard to get information in, hard to get information out. Okay. The SOE though was able to recruit someone who would become one of their key operatives.
Cool.
We're going to talk about a dude here. This is a guy who helped the SOE link up with the Republican and especially left-wing groups in Athens and Thessaloniki. And he had a code name.
What?
It's a cool code name.
Yeah.
Odysseus.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's a cool code name,
dope,
right?
Man.
That is dope. Isn't that an awesome code name?
Yes, yeah.
So his legit name was Gerasimos Alexatos. Maybe he was from the island of Kefalonia because they got that ATOS ending at the end of their last names.
Okay.
But his codename was Odysseus.
That's dope.
So Odysseus, I know.
So right? Codename Odysseus is like the James Bond, like the Greek James Bond in this time period.
Yeah, this is like if
the
James
recruit.
Bond was a fisherman.
Yeah.
And
dude, they need to make a movie about this dude. I don't know anything more about him yet.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. So Odysseus. So apparently he was described like a Zorba the Greek type character. You know that movie with Anthony Quinn?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
You do, really?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know.
Wow.
So he was like cunning. He had an appetite for danger, and he was like mysterious.
Okay.
Right? Like mysterious, right?
Yeah.
So he was a man of the sea, let's say. Like a fisher guy, and he was accustomed with the Eastern Mediterranean underworld. Also, he was also known as being a smuggler. And you knew like all the small islets, caves, coves you can go in, gulfs, and like that kind of stuff, that you only know if you like do that kind of thing a lot. Right guy for the job.
Right.
So he volunteered to work for the SOE in 1940 and was trained at the SOE's makeshift training school, which was located on a semi-ruined Venetian castle on Crete. To this day, it's speculated exactly why he volunteered. No one really
did you say it's a Venetian castle?
Yeah, they got a lot of Venetian castles on Crete.
Yeah.
Crete's awesome.
That was why Venice was such a trouble for like unification. Yeah.
Oh, that too. What were you going to say?
I was going to say the unification of Italy because they were off kind of doing their own thing. They're like, well, yeah, maybe you'll have a crusade. Maybe we'll send you after somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the fourth crusade they fucked up, right?
What was that?
This is the fourth crusade that Venice fucked up, right?
Yeah, the fourth crusade that they fucked us.
Yeah.
Greeks are still salty about that.
Rightfully so. It set the stage for. We don't have to talk about this now. We were having a good time. Why did I bring this up?
No, it's all right.
All right.
The listeners will appreciate this. Yeah. Trust me.
Well, because everybody talks about Mehmet and the cannons and all that, but like none of that would have been as effective if it weren't for this little fucking 100%. Diversion that the Doge.
People were so pissed about the Fourth Crusade. there's a good quote by this guy. He was a duke, Duke Notaras. And he goes, rather the turban of the Sultan than the tiara of the Pope. Because at the time they were like, okay, we can submit to the Pope, become Catholic, and get reinforcements, maybe, or fall to the Sultan or fight the Sultan. And they were like, fuck it, we'd rather fight the Turks because they were so pissed. That's not the sole reason of it, but a lot of people were pissed. I mean, the Fourth Crusade, they like raped and pillaged for like a week. They like raped nuns on the altar, Sophia and stuff like that. They went into the graves of the emperors and like took the rings off the skeletons. You were probably there in Venice. What is it, St. Mark's?
Yeah.
There's stuff from Constantinople there.
Yeah, no, it was there. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Nuts.
But it's
probably was beautiful. My dad told me. My dad's been. He's like,
dude, it was breathtaking. Like we walked into the courtyard where St. Mark's is, and I just like it was literally like I lost my breath. Breathtaking. I'm a dramatic person, but it was not like I was not being showy. It was just like you feel overwhelmed, right? And I didn't like drop to my knees, but I did drop down to my knees.
No, but for a history lover guy like you, I'd be fucking blown away.
My wife noticed that, and she told me about this after it happened. She was like, some guy was like, because people live there and go to work, this guy was like walking with like a tool bag going to work for something, and he saw me and he like made a triple take, and he sort of like smiled and was like, it mattered to him that a tourist was so moved by like the history of that moment. Which that actually made me feel good to see that like I wasn't just being a fucking dramatic little baby about it.
No, are you kidding? If you appreciate that stuff, you appreciate it.
Yeah. But it's upsetting to know that it's all, but it's like Jews looking at the Colosseum being like, that's cool what you did with our temple money, like,
oh, get out. It's in there.
Yeah. No, that's how they were able to afford to build it, was because they had, during the time of Nero, raided the temple.
The Jerusalem revolts and all that jazz.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. It's called Colosseum because there was a big giant Colossus statue of Nero in front of it. That's
what?
Like the Colossus of Rhodes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like 30 meters tall. Huge. It's not there anymore for a reason.
Dude, if you're a history lover, I was able to, there's a place called Mistras outside of Sparta. It was a place where the last emperor of Constantinople was crowned.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's a city within Sparta, or it's an island
like
off
a town. It's a fort out on a mountain outside of Sparta.
Okay.
And and that's kind of fuels the prophecies about the fall of Constantinople, because he was the 12th Constantine, 12 apostles.
Oh.
Right? He was the last one. He wasn't crowned in Constantinople. He was crowned outside, so he wasn't of the purple, right? The purple porphyry stone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like that. In one of the churches, apparently, there was no room for another Constantine, another emperor.
They ran out of room, so it had to be the end.
Yeah. There's all this stuff.
Sure,
there's a lot of like.
And if they would have talked to the Mayans, there would have been a calendar that told them, wait, no, that was.
That's right.
Never mind. I got right. No,
that's right.
That doesn't line up. Okay, you've indulged me enough. Please, let's get back to where you were.
Back to Odysseus.
Yeah.
Back to Odysseus.
Yeah, the James Bond of
the James Bond,
Greece.
Of MI6. So, to this day, it's speculated exactly why he volunteered. Okay, no one's exactly sure.
What's the legend of it?
The legend, he was just a smuggler because they caught him literally.
He's like a Han Solo.
Gems. Kind of, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. They literally caught him smuggling diamonds and precious gems past customs officials in Greece and the Middle East several occasions.
And then they like diverted him into like, okay, well, maybe we can.
They caught him while he was doing this also.
Oh, I see. I love this guy. So he's got his spy job, but he's got, the man's got to smuggle. Like, I can't stop smuggling.
Hobby,
all the people that I smuggle for are going to wonder why I'm not smuggling anymore.
Yeah. Listen.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Mental health, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Jeez. So many were confused why he was like aligned and sympathetic to the left, especially. After the war, he vanished.
Ooh.
But, right, in 1955, a former British SOE operative ran into him on a street in Piraeus, which Piraeus is the other big city right next to Athens.
Okay.
It's the port. It was the ancient port of ancient Athens.
Okay.
It's a port city today. It's a huge port. And, quote, walking up behind him, I tapped him on the back, saying, Odysseus, my friend. When he jerked his head over his shoulder, he took one suspicious look at me and beat a hasty retreat around the nearest corner.
You don't run away if it's not you. Like,
one thing was certain, he was up to his old tricks. Yeah, he just ran away.
I love it. Oh, man, I love it. Wow.
I know, isn't it funny, dude?
Yes.
He's literally like, I can't be seen here. I don't know you.
Wow. And then
It's
he
like
was
in
never
Ocean's
seen again.
11.
That was like the last time anybody.
That was the last time everyone ever saw him.
Dude, I love this guy.
I know, it's so funny, huh?
Ah.
So as we'll see, this Odysseus guy,
Yeah.
he'll help create smuggling routes between Turkey and the Greek islands that will be used to move weapons and people in and out of occupied Greece. And by November of 1941, so 7 or so months into the Axis occupation, he was able to smuggle into Greece the radio codes for the transmitter Prometheus 2,
Ooh. Teaching them
which
fire.
was the only underground group that had survived the Axis invasion and the primary connection between the SOE and the Greek resistance.
Oh, wow.
So it was like a
So if it weren't for
transmitter
him-
and like a network of like communication, apparently.
So, but if it weren't for him, there wouldn't have been able to pass that
He
information.
played a huge leading role. He played a huge leading role at the startup of it.
Do like a lot of people in Greece know the story of this guy?
I don't think so.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you.
I don't think so. I mean, I didn't know about any of
Yeah,
this.
and you are my Greek history source. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, if you're like, I just learned about
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah,
I mean, unless you're like, like a PhD, like
Yeah.
Dale, who we have on a lot.
yeah. No, I like
I
the
mean, that
episodes
guy
with
obviously
him.
knows
Yeah,
a ton.
yeah, he's great to
knows
listen
his
to too.
job.
He's really fun. You guys are great together too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to pick his brain on
Yeah.
a lot of stuff. That's why I have him on. So for the next couple of years, Odysseus would wear half a dozen or so hats, right? He would act as a courier, a saboteur, a guerrilla fighter, and most importantly, he served as an important link between the SOE and the KKE,
We just talked
Right,
about them
which-
in the last episode we did, the communist
the
group.
Communist Party
Yeah.
Greece, exactly.
Yeah, led by a guy in an insane asylum. No,
Yeah, he was led by a guy in a sanatorium for a
Sanatorium.
while. I think by the time this happened, they had started to
oh right, this was later, right? Yeah,
Yeah, the sanatorium was during the government.
right.
Because he had to pretend to be. I don't know if he was pretending to be. I never got that.
Okay.
I figured that out if he was pretending to be insane or not.
Right.
But by all accounts, he was like the SOE's main man in Greece.
The Odysseus.
Yeah, Odysseus, exactly. He was so productive that his reports he was sending out to the British heavily skewed British intelligence operations in favor of the left, apparently.
Oh,
And
so
by
they went
Feb-
from being sort of ambiguous to being like, we just need to support whatever this guy's doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
because these guys are going to resist the most, and he
Yeah.
played a leading role in
Well,
that.
like you said, their foreign policy was more of an emergent property, and so he was steering that emergenceness towards the
left,
left.
apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
The ad hoc nature of it, let's say, right?
Yeah.
You're steering it.
Yeah.
So by February 1942, the SOE Greek section had become convinced that, quote, the royalist cause in Greece was as good as lost, and that when the country was liberated, we should find Republican sentiment. Republican is primarily on the left.
Yeah.
Too strong to be imposed upon. We did, however, differ somewhere in our estimate as to what type of Republicans we should find rampant when liberation came, end quote.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So pretty much the left has become so powered that the monarchists aren't going to be able to keep up to compete.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they're getting at.
And
In other words, go ahead.
no, go.
I was just going to say, in other words, that's really it. The left was being primarily
Well, and is that not
on.
pretty accurate? Like
It is.
at the end of the
It's
war,
accurate.
the
The left was the biggest.
and then it was factional fighting
It
within
was
them.
factional fighting, but we're going to see and they create their own government. There's a lot. We got like 10, 15 more episodes to go.
I love it. I'm like,
we're gonna
let's
get
jump
into
ahead.
that.
It's like, no, you got to know all this.
I can't.
Yeah.
No, I can't. I don't want to get weird, but I can't blow my load at once. You know what I
That's
mean?
not weird. That's not weird.
Okay, that's
Let's get
it's an
weird.
analogy.
yeah, it's a term.
It's a term, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I got to slow feed you guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and around this time that when this report was being written, which was February 1942, EAM, the National Liberation Front, which was this umbrella organization, it was primarily headed by the communists, but there was some speculation of that. It was kind of rumors. Not everyone knew about that at the time. Later on, it'll become known that the communists organized and stuff. And some people knew from the start, but for some people, it was rumors anyways. EDES, which was the National Republican Greek League, which was more on the left. It was more republicanism. They had been established 5 or so months earlier in the fall of 1941. And both of those resistance groups were still left of the monarchists and the metaxists, right? Whether they were Republican or communist or not, right? So those two groups will be the largest in the Civil War. EAM and their military wing ELAS, E-L-A-S, and then EDES, the National Republican Greek League. So, if these mechanics of organization that were set in motion by the SOE and people like Odysseus tilted Greek resistance to the left, then the next debacle, the Atkinson affair, as what we'll call it, will fatally damage Atkinson, like the Atkins diet, will fatally damage any chance of a moderate resistance group emerging in the mix. Okay, so let's talk about the Atkinson affair. John Atkinson, Atkinson. Okay?
Yeah.
He was a junior officer who fought in the Battle of mainland Greece. He was a Brit. And just like a lot of other British soldiers we met in previous episodes, he ended up getting captured with thousands of other Allied forces when the resistance collapsed on the mainland in April 1941. Luckily, with the incognito help of the head of the Greek Red Cross, a Mr. Alexander Zanis, Atkinson was able to escape imprisonment. For months, he ended up sharing an apartment with a Greek family in Athens that, ironically, at the same time as hosting him, they were also playing host to an Italian colonel. Is that wild? I could never handle that anxiety, bro.
No, I know, right? Yeah, it's you'd have to write that as a comedy, right? Like it would have to be like a wacky
Right?
mix 'em up. How you're going to be
Right?
You say the wrong thing in front of the other one, but then you stumble through your words to be like, it's actually what I meant. Also, just in terms of it being a comedy, if we're talking about Atkinson, all I'm picturing is Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, and I don't like.
Oh, that's his name. I didn't know.
There is no way for me to take this part of the story seriously as long as I picture it as Mr. Bean.
Keep that in mind.
Okay, good. Okay.
Keep that in mind,
Okay.
the Mr. Bean thing. That
Okay.
actually works really well.
Okay, good.
So Atkinson, or Mr. Bean, was eventually able to get out of Athens and reached Alexandria, Egypt, sometime around October of 41. He ends up trying to lend his services to the SOE, who actually turned him down. I don't know why.
Okay.
I don't know why. But he was able to get a job with Section N. N is in November of MI9.
Okay.
Which
So it's
I
a
don't
different
know.
number and a different letter. Fine. Think of it as
Exactly.
It's still
It's different
foreign
letter,
office.
different number.
It's foreign
Yeah.
office. Okay.
Yeah, they were specifically in charge of like helping prisoners escape.
Okay.
POWs.
Okay.
MI9
Okay.
apparently. So
So
we
he
didn't mention it.
so Mr. Bean tries to get a job with them.
Right, he gets a job. He gets shot down by MI6 or the SOE, but he gets a job with MI9.
Okay.
Now we didn't mention it, but that Mr. Zanis guy, the head of the Greek Red Cross that helped Atkinson escape prison, also had his hobby as being head of a small up-and-coming Greek resistance group. So that same October, Atkinson meets Zanis, who then fills Atkinson in on clandestine networks. And these are networks that were originally set up to help British POWs and escapees get out of Greece. This is actually one of the same routes that Atkinson used himself, right?
Okay.
But these routes now expanded to operations that included espionage and sabotage, okay? So during this meeting, they're having a meeting, right? They're going out to coffee. Everything seems to be going swell enough, right? But there was something very, very off-putting about the way Atkinson was doing business, okay? He was writing everything down.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's you're supposed to go back to your room and write it down. Like you don't write it down there. Like
He was writing everything down.
Okay.
And everything, apparently. He was routes, networks.
What was your
names,
name again?
everything.
Spell that? Like, yeah,
Everything.
Yeah.
Right. This is, of course, is very stupid.
Yeah.
We've seen this story before.
Yeah.
Zanis let him know. Zanis literally told him, he says, Can you
Don't
not
put it on your wallpaper like the other guy did.
Yeah, don't put it on your wallpaper.
Yeah.
Can you just fucking not do that,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah.
Right? Atkinson insisted that everything would be fine and that the papers would be destroyed, I promise you.
Why would you
Right?
write it down then?
Wow.
Hey, why would you write it down to destroy it? Like just okay.
Yeah. So between Atkinson he was operating out of a little island of Antiparos, which is right next to the famous island of Paros. It's really touristy island, right?
Okay, I see the Antiparos. Yeah.
And his British he was operating out of Antiparos. There were British intelligence connections. They were doing their thing, of course. And Zanis and his Athenian connections were doing their thing. Things were going well. British and Greek fugitives continued to get out of Greece. They'd make it to Turkey, elsewhere, yada yada. And Atkinson continued his work on smuggling, sabotage, and espionage work in Greece. Things started to really pick up when Atkinson was able to get an Italian sergeant, Gerolymatos, on board with their operations. So they got an inside man, right?
Mm-hmm.
This Italian sergeant was able to feed Atkinson info on the Italian garrison on the nearby island of Paros, which is right next door, along with a heads up of any German or Italian patrols en route, and soon enough, an entire intelligence network was established that was able to monitor and report on Axis movements within the Cycladic Islands chains.
Okay.
That whole chain which is like Mykonos, Santorini, all those islands, that whole area, right?
Yeah.
Which is, of course, impressive, right?
Yeah.
This is the Atkinson, Zanis, Licheri nexus, let's call it.
Okay.
It continued to yield pretty impressive results throughout the end of 1941, with 2 German destroyers being sunk in Milos.
Whoa.
Yeah, in November. Not small stuff we're talking about.
Yeah.
But as you can imagine, 2 destroyers getting blown to bits and sunk tends to
that starts to get attention. Yeah. Who is getting this information? Who's leaking this? Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah,
2 destroyers.
Certainly.
One wasn't enough.
Now's not a good time to have a notebook laying around.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Now, you don't say, huh?
Yeah.
Licheri, at this point, this is January of 1941. Licheri straight up tells Atkinson, like, hey, they're coming for you. You should leave. So what does Atkinson do for whatever reason? What does he do?
Doesn't leave.
He doesn't leave.
Yeah. Doesn't get rid of his notebook, probably more important.
Doesn't get rid of his notebook. And I know, right? And on January 6th, Italian forces surrounded his idyllic, whitewashed home, and by the end of the raid, 1 Italian soldier was shot, a grenade was tossed, and Atkinson's legs were torn up in the explosion, with one leg having to be amputated altogether. Now, thankfully, one of the grenades hit a can of petroleum, like in the video games, and exploded, and everything burned down.
Except for the notebook?
I'm joking.
Oh, damn it. Oh, no.
That did not happen. Nothing went down in flames. All those notes that Zanis specifically told Atkinson not to write down.
Oh, my God.
Please do not write down. We're never destroyed.
Oh, all those people are in jeopardy now.
Yeah, everyone. It's very as bad. It's as bad as you can think. The Italians found a 17-page report. 17 pages on prospective contacts in Athens.
Oh, no. That's not 17 contacts. That's 17 pages.
Pages, yes. Prepared by the government in Cairo. A code book.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on. $15,000 cash, mostly in dollars, but also in pounds. A diary of his activities in Greece.
Was he going to write a book later?
I know, right? And lastly, notes on his meeting with Zanis.
Oh, fuck. Zanis was already a suspicious person, I'm sure, right? Like,
what was that?
Zanis was already a person of suspicion, I'm sure. So
perhaps he might have been head of the Red Cross, right?
Yeah.
The injuries Atkinson sustained during the raid in Antiparos really degraded him both like physically, obviously, and mentally. Yeah. And it wasn't long before he snapped all together and sung like a canary, revealing all the names and details of his meticulously written journals that all his notes didn't already.
This is like the opposite of Odysseus.
Yeah, this is not Odysseus. Odysseus is like, this guy's a fucking noob. What a loser.
Yeah.
Odysseus probably wasn't friends with this guy.
Fuck, man.
So just a month and a half or so later, on February 24th, the helpless and shattered British officer joined 4 others condemned to death via firing squad. Ooh. He had to be tied to a chair because his injuries were so severe, and his last words were, quote, "Please forgive me so that God can also grant me forgiveness." Kind of sad, huh?
It is sad.
I know, poor guy. Jesus. Fuck.
Yeah, it's hard to put myself in that mindset, but it feels. You just need God's forgiveness. You don't need the people that are shooting yours forgiveness. But what do I know?
That's how I feel too, bro.
Yeah, but I'm not. I wouldn't know what it's like to be in that moment.
But yeah, he must have felt so bad.
Yeah. Oh God, imagine knowing you betrayed all those people.
I know. At that point, just shoot me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, the fallout from the entire Atkinson affair was obviously catastrophic. And it's catastrophic because the resistance that collapsed wasn't just like a network that was established on the Cycladic island chain. There was another resistance network that was snuffed out as a result of that network.
Yeah, Domino's fault.
Yeah, right. That was headed by Panayotis Kanelopoulos. And that guy was a moderate royalist politician. And by moderate, he was a monarchist who was against the Metaxas 4th of August regime dictatorship. Ooh. Right? So it's like another element that could have played a kind of balancing role.
Right.
And his name was written down on those damn notes that Atkinson didn't burn. Damn. So at that point, Kanelopoulos knew immediately he had to get the hell out of Greece, which he did. Right. But what does all this mean? This all results in like a group that could have countered the juggernaut that will become
Right.
at last.
Yeah, I was already thinking that. Like, how would the future be different if those people were still around?
Right.
Yeah.
It almost reminds me of there was this thing in Afghanistan. It happened like right around 2001, excuse me, when they assassinated the leader of the Northern Alliance. I don't know, just stuff like that. Like when key characters get assassinated, how things can be different. And
Right.
whatnot,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? That's really it for that. You know, the war goes on, and the resistance was still needed to, in the words of Winston Churchill, to set Europe ablaze. So when Karnolopoulos escaped from Greece and got down to Cairo, he met up with the Greek government in exile, and he was appointed vice premier of the Greek government in exile.
So I'll be some ignorance here. I didn't realize that's where the exile government was in Cairo
at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. It later goes up to London, which makes him even more removed from Greece.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Cairo is at least close-ish.
No, that makes sense. But
yeah.
London.
Yeah. But when you're in London, London's all the way in London.
Yeah.
You know. But they kept building on and whatnot. And really, honestly, on that note, I think we gave a good introduction to British maneuverings in Greece, and that's really it for today.
Okay. Man, I mean, I'm on the edge of my seat for the rest of this, man.
I know, it's really interesting. Next episode, we'll talk about the National Liberation Front, known as EAM. EAM. Thanks a lot, man, for showing up for this.
I said it at the beginning, and I mean it even more so now. It's been a pleasure, man. I feel like I've learned a lot. I hope this was fun for the listeners. I know I took us down a lot of diversions. Hopefully that was constructive.
No, they were all relevant.
Right, good.
All relevant. I mean, this is great. This is great stuff. So.
That's what history is, right? It's like, how is this thing connected to that thing?
Yep. Yeah. Where have I seen this before? Right. Where, what pattern is this? Like, we see these patterns over and over again. And then we don't learn anything, and we just walk right into the propeller. Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty much. So.